Hello again, Roger.
Hello again. Yeah.
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
Alain Roux, the founder of PSI Audio. And I think that even our interview was very good. I think that something of the history and something of the advances could be better explained by the original founder.
I hope.
So, let me start to saying thank you for you and for PSI Audio, because they give us the opportunity to know all of the loudspeakers, how are they manufactured, all the technologies, and this is not usual that a manufacturer open the doors and let us to film everything. Thank you very much.
Well, our loudspeakers are supposed to translate the truth, so we want to show the truth and what we do also, and we're very proud of what we do, so we want people to see it.
Okay.
Yes, it was always important to be transparent.
Yeah. Yeah. So for the beginning, I want to know something about your life. How do you start with that idea of manufacturing loudspeakers?
Oh, it was passion.
A passion?
Passion, yes. Because I liked the music. I was not a good musician. And a loudspeaker is a little like an instrument, but it is. We can easily understand that a membrane, that une table d'harmonie give a sound. Une table d'harmonie, a frame.
Yeah, a frame of harmony gives a certain sound.
Gives a certain sound. But that a diaphragm of a loudspeaker give all the different sound together. For a little child, it was a very astonished.
Very surprising and difficult to understand. Yes. How a simple diaphragm could make lots of different sounds.
Sound together. And it was a fascination. On peut dire la fascination.
Mm-hmm.
It was when I was 15 years old, and I began to make kit for my friends. And the first series was when I was 17. For my friend, I have made a series of first.
But how do you learn?
I was a student in the Polytechnicum here in Lausanne, in EPFL, but I was not a good student. I preferred to make my workshop. So before the end of my studies, I was making production, and after time, it was with the AES, the Audio Engineering Society.
Yeah.
I had the chance that the professor in Lausanne asked me to be a member of the AES, so I could always learn during, because everything changed during these years, because I began before the year 70, before the year 70. I could earn my life with this domain from the year 77. And from 77 till now, everything changed. So it was only possible when avec la formation permanente, how to say.
With continuous learning.
Yeah. But in that time, is there any information about loudspeakers, how to build it, or it was a trial and error system to achieve that knowledge?
Tu veux peut-être me le traduire pour être sûr.
Est-ce qu'il y avait une manière de construire des haut-parleurs qui étaient établis, ou bien c'était beaucoup d'essais, puis beaucoup d'essais empiriques? Comment est-ce que tu as progressé? Comme ça, c'est théorie?
The majority was, for me, it was interesting as soon as it was exact. But to understand, you must try finding a theory which is adapted, and retry if the theory is right. And when we found the right theory, we can go further.
But in that times,
a very good example, it is only on the maximum sound pressure level on our loudspeaker. It was not defined, and actually I think there is not a lot of manufacturers where the maximum sound pressure level, which is a very important data of a loudspeaker, which is an exact system. So we are proud to have exact solution for the majority of the data.
But in that times, in that ages, when you start, loudspeakers knowledge were very, very wide, or it was only some knowledge?
You know, in that time when I began, there was no difference between a home loudspeaker, a studio loudspeaker, and a public address loudspeaker. It was always the same. That was only loudspeakers. It was in the year 80s that we had enough power that we could make different type of loudspeakers. It was in the beginning a loudspeaker was developed, that is before my work. It was developed like a musical instrument. It was not a science. It was experimental development. And by chance, we had the first measurement microphone, so we were able to measure what is a sound. The first measurement microphone, which were made by Bruel and Thielle, was as soon as possible to be logic in development. That's not more a creation of sound, it is a reproduction.
Yeah, you achieve some accurate
microphones.
Yeah. And this is your very low ages, and then when you started to being more important with more knowledge, how did you found out the PSI audio?
As soon as we have enough creativity, we can do a new model. It is to make a loudspeaker perhaps like the others. It was perhaps not better, not worse, perhaps a little more adapted to our customer. It was a first. After, we have some ideas to make better on one thing, on the membrane perhaps, on the filter perhaps, on the different. And if you have enough ideas, you can do a new model. And your creativity are perhaps on 3 little key points of this new model. These key points is the beginning of the specialty of PSI audio. After, we have other key points, that is a second new model, and other key points make a third new model. And so, 20 years after, there is a range
wide range.
wide range.
And how was the transition from your first age when you manufacture some loudspeakers for your friends until you go to get your brand, your PSI audio brand?
8 years, because the first for my friends was in 77 and in 70, and I began in 77. That is 7 years.
And in this time, you achieve your knowledge just with practical or just learning from books, from seminars?
In the beginning, it was a lot with books and with experiments in my laboratory, and after these, the key points are coming after these 7 years, I think. Perhaps the most important during the first 7 years, it was that I learned that transfer function is not only the level the level with the curve frequency level is also the phase versus
the magnitude and the phase.
Magnitude and the phase.
Okay.
And we only spoke with the magnitude.
Yes.
And it was for me very interesting to control the phase, and therefore it was my first specialty, the first key point of PSI audio. It was to work on the phase.
On the phase, okay. Later we will speak about the phase.
And to control the phase with loudspeaker. And in the beginning, it was only with the little possibility to work on the time delay. After, we had the possibility to work with all-pass filters, and you know that now it is more our principal specialty, our principal key point.
Yes, later we will speak about the all-pass filter.
But you asked what is the beginning.
Yeah.
It was soon on the phase. We have made ourselves the first phase meter, because the phase meter was only for electrical measurement, the phase meter on the market. And for acoustic measurement, we need a delay for measurement of the phase, and there was no such phase meter. We had to build it to control what is our theory, and to be able to design loudspeaker specialty.
And in these years, I think that Small and Thielle developed their parameters. Did you ever use that parameters
from Thielle-Small?
Yeah.
It was very interesting for us. It was the beginning of transfer of the modelisation.
Yeah, the modeling.
It was a big improvement for us, and I had the chance to meet Richard Small, which was a big friend of my professor in EPFL. Richard Small.
So you use that parameters?
Yes, absolutely.
To manufacture the loudspeakers.
It was a lot more simple than before, where We had experimental calibrations after it was une démarche rigoureuse, comment on dit rigoureuse?
An objective design or process.
An objective process. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so at the beginning, when there is not any PC like now that you can simulate circuits, and you must to solve the model by hand.
Yes, absolutely.
With the board.
It was a lot more. We said that the acoustic mass must be the same like the mechanical mass, and the acoustic compliant must be the same.
The compliance.
The compliance of the box of the volume.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a good optimum, but not so easy to modify like with a good mathematical model, like the mathematical model of Thielle-Small.
Mm-hmm. So then this was the first years, and after you go to Studer, you work with a Studer.
Perhaps it's not exactly like that. We made a loudspeaker for a lot of, for our customers, which was the most hi-fi loudspeakers. And by chance, we had a good hi-fi model with high sound, possible high sound pressure level, with not a too big encombrement.
Footprint or volume.
And some customers used it for studio, but not professional studios. But it was the beginning of home studios, and they use our product, and they asked, these people came progressively most professional, and they asked us to make higher and higher characteristics on our products. So we had to improve the reliability, we had to improve the volume, we have to improve the maximum sound pressure level to reduce the distortion. And so the models comes professional. And when Studer had his series, he wanted to externalize the production, because in the beginning Studer product with Revox in Germany, and they wanted to have that from Switzerland, and they asked to collaborate. I asked her to collaborate, and we made a model which could be the same for Studer and for us. For us, it was a big chance, because I had no competencies, competencies for export, and Studer knew soon how to export. So the majority of the production was of this model was for export by Studer, and the majority of the product was Studer and not PSI. We reserved the PSI for our local market, but it was a PSI product made for Studer together with Studer. And we collaborate, so during exactly 10 years, it was a very good collaboration. When we stopped it, because Studer was sold to international group, this group wanted to preserve his market and wanted that Studer buy product of the group. The man from Studer, who was really super engineers, it was very intense for me.
Willie Studer.
Not Willie Studer was no more here. It was the beginning that the chief of these developments was Monsieur Zwicky. He was specialized from magnetization. It was Studer was very top enterprise in the world for the audio, and for every domain they had a specialized. And for me, it was really a chance to collaborate with these specialists. Zwicky for magnetization and all the. The magnet fields are not easy to understand, and the movement of a coil in a magnet field changed this magnet field, and that is a big source of distortion. All this thing was very interesting. Also, we began with the active products, and they had Monsieur Fiala, who knew every norms in the world. If you have a screw not of the right dimension, he can find in the book. In Japan, it is necessary to have minimum M4 for this type of screws. and for everything, he knew what was the norm, and it was a so big advantage for us for export our product to know all this norm. So it is two examples of Monsieur Zwicky, Monsieur Fiala, whose competencies was so important for the beginning of export for our products.
And which years was your studio collaboration? In what years?
Yes.
What years?
10 years.
But when from
start and finish?
It began when Christian came. It was in the beginning of the
Early 90s.
Of the 90s, and we finished. It was 92, I think, till 2002. 2012, yeah, 2004, 2004.
And in the 80s, what do you do with your brand? Before Studer?
It was only 14 years before Studer, because it was from 77 till to 91.
Yeah. And what happens in that years?
We make this fabric. But we made only passive loudspeakers. We made in active only the processors for the
crossover
processing. It is more the crossover, the passive crossovers was in the beginning our main important product. After 14 years, it was the end of this technology of passive loudspeakers and processing. We made the first controllers. It was a detector in the loudspeaker who gave a feedback to preamplifier who could change the compression and could change the crossover. A controller is is a tool which make the dynamic for calibrating the dynamic and the range.
But why do you need a compressor inside a loudspeaker?
Because we in the end of the passive loudspeaker, our main production was public address loudspeakers, and you know, if a public address system is not used on the maximum, it was too expensive.
Yeah.
The public address must always be dimensioned as little as possible to have enough power, but not too much, because if you have too much power, it is too expensive.
Yeah.
For the
Yeah. And after,
so the public address was in the beginning. We work maximum in hi-fi. After in the public address, and the studio domain was good optimum. The hi-fi, between hi-fi, where the quality is the most important, and public address, where the liability is the most important. And in studio, both are important. In studio domain, the dimension of the product must be as little as possible, and the liability must be the higher as possible.
And after the passive loudspeakers, you begin with the active. How was this transition?
Practically, we had ideas and we had made some prototypes, and I had the chance to meet Christian Martin, who is now our main engineer, and it was very positive to work together, and together we have developed all the range of active actual boxes, and because we started on the most simple things, we were able to be creative for every circuit. You know, most active boxes is only allowed an amplifier in a normal loudspeaker. That's soon an active box, but that's not an optimal active box. We had to design ourselves amplifier which needs not too much dissipation. We had to develop system for compression for the protection. You know, when I began with active boxes, we were the first to have a compressor to protect, a good limiter, to protect our systems, so the liability is higher and the sound stay good. Our competitors had systems who cut the sound. Our circuit was a lot better for the professional. The limiter gives a red lamp here. If so, the professional know if it is red. There is soon 1 dB compression. That's not important for the ear, but if he goes higher, it will be important.
Yeah.
That specialties. Je sais pas.
After the first active loudspeakers became the Studer era. Age.
With Studer, the chance it was that Monsieur Zwicky was soon very attentif.
Had a lot of gave a lot of attention to
Takes attention on the phase problem in the loudspeaker.
yeah.
And that's why he preferred our collaboration than from other competitors. You know that it was funny that they preferred to work with a little firm like us than with other big. They had possibility to work with other firms, you know. They had, but they preferred because Monsieur Zwicky wanted good solution for the phase problem in loudspeaker, and we had soon the experiment to have good solutions. And in electronics, the good solution is to work with all-pass filters. And to make a lot of all-pass filters without too much noise and with an accurate phase response, it is a little specialty, and we had this opportunity.
And when the Studer ages finished, what do you do?
For us, it was a chance because they made the export, so we could do relative important volumes of production, but the commercial margins was stayed in part not by us. So we had the collaboration. When the collaboration stopped, our commercial margins becomes higher, so we can have the budget to be able to make ourselves the export. We have had new collaborators, therefore, and it was the chance that PSI was no more only
and a manufacturer.
A cousin, a friend of Studer. There was the PSI was the main product. So it was a chance to be, and also we had a very good collaboration with Studer. So every customer of Studer knew that we are the productors. So when Studer made the letter that they stopped the collaboration, we can show this letter to say we had a good collaboration. The firm Studer hope that we can continue.
So this is your last years after Roger B Games?
Yes. The 10 last years.
So you keep manufacturing the PSI audio, not Studer?
Roger came. It was just the end of Studer. Studer had stopped approximately 5 years before, and we had soon an exportation relatively important, and we began the development of the AVA. For us, the AVA is the top of analogic technologies. And it was a big chance that to be able of export, it is a very little market, but a market for all the world. And to be able to export, to have somebody who is able to transmit for a new product, it was the chance for this product that Roger was able to do that. I was absolutely not able. I was able to do the product, but not. That's perhaps approximately the most important dates. It was the passive technology, the active technology, and the AVA. I think the AVA is a very it's a very little market, but also our products is a little market with a lot of competitors. The AVA is also a little market, but with no more competitors.